This is the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sikkim Podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics. Now, here are your hosts, Brooke Bednarz and the voice of the Bears, John Morris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Hey, we're glad you're with us this week. John Morris, Brooke Bednarz. Brooke, with a March Madness theme to our Sikkim Podcast this week. Let's talk some Baylor basketball with one of former Baylor great.
Yeah, the one and only King McClure. We have a lot to talk about. And, it's pretty fitting to have him on to talk about NCAA and March Madness, as the last time the Baylor Bears were actually able to even play in March Madness, King was on the team leading the effort.
King, welcome to you, man. We appreciate you being here with us this week.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
March Madness, it's a fun time of year, isn't it? I'm sure great memories of playing basketball in March.
Yeah, I got a lot of great memories, honestly. The last one was probably my sophomore year. That was the most memorable. But the last one was pretty memorable, but just because we weren't supposed to be there in a sense. So I think that right there made it special.
Well, tell us a little bit. I know we're going to dive into what you're doing now, which is obviously very exciting. But before we talk about the current team and the current situation headed up to the bubble, as everyone's calling it, I do want to talk with you a little bit about your history with Baylor Athletics and how you decided to become a Baylor Bear, and just kind of go through your career here. So tell us, to start off, that recruiting process, and what about Baylor made you decide that this is where you wanted to play ball?
Well, that's a long story.
We got time.
It's a podcast.
So pretty much, growing up, my first offer was to Baylor in the 8th grade. Coach Tang came to my school. I've been knowing Coach Tang since I was 14. I'm 24. I don't know, it's like 10 years almost. So Coach Tang's the first offer. I kind of knew, in a sense, I had that sense in the back of my mind that I always wanted to go to Baylor because it was the first visit I ever took. But I never would ever verbalize that. It was just internal. So as time went by, I had a lot of offers. My final schools came down to Baylor, Kansas, North Carolina, Arkansas. And I almost was a Tar Heel because that was my dream school growing up. I just love everything about UNC. But they came in kind of late to the picture because I committed to Baylor in my junior year, and they came in. They actually called me the week before. Hubert Davis, the assistant, he said, we're coming down to see King next week, and if we like him, we're going to offer him. Same thing with Jeff Cable at Duke. They both called on the same day, so we're going to offer him. But I feel like that was just a little bit too late. Like, all these other schools have been on me since my freshman year. So had they offered me, I would be a Tar Heel. We wouldn't even be having this conversation because
oh my goodness,
I love UNC. So I committed. Coach Tang was at my school every single week. Coach Drew was at my school every single week. I thought that was huge for me. I mean, it was just the family atmosphere, the Christianity, and my family and I are super big into that. The proximity to the house was huge. It's only like 55 miles from my crib right now, and my family got to come to every single game. So that was huge for me because I'm big on family. And the academics were second to none. They're pretty good. It's the private school. And I didn't want to go somewhere too big. I don't think I could have made it like a party school, like a UT or a Texas Tech or something like that. So good thing I chose Baylor because, it was parties, but it really wasn't nothing too crazy. So I think those reasons were the primary reasons why I decided to come to Baylor. But I played 4 years. I loved it. Had a great career. And led me to success, honestly.
You had great success when you were here. You were part of some really good teams, too. There was an event earlier this week. You were a part of a panel of former Baylor greats, and you guys were kind of reminiscing about the history of Baylor basketball during your time and Coach Drew's success here. That was fun to hear you guys talk about it, and just the culture that Coach Drew has instilled in everybody here.
Yeah, no, that was a pleasure to be on. You know, when you look at Baylor greats, you know, they put you in that category. It's kind of special. I mean, just because Baylor means so much to you and so much to me. So I thought that was pretty cool just to be on there with guys like Tweety Carter, Terry Black, David Wesley, Quincy Acey, like dudes who actually like really, really made a name for themselves, and to hear yourself in the same category, that's an honor, honestly.
Yeah, that was really good. Well done. Can you imagine or tell everybody about the health issues that you went through, your heart issues when you were here, and how David Chandler and Coach Drew and Coach Tang and everybody really helped you through that?
Yeah, so my first week here, we got tested for echocardiograms and EKGs, and mine came back abnormal because after what happened to Isaiah, they wanted to ensure that it never happened again. So they just test you off rip to make sure like there's not a situation where you go through a draft process and you figure out the hard way. So mine came back abnormal. No doctors really knew what was going on, so they had to ship it to 3 different hospitals across the country in order to get an answer. And we finally got the answer. It was hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which means the walls of your heart get thicker when you do physical activity, which can lead to sudden cardiac arrest, or it also makes it harder for the blood to pump to your lungs. So in a long story, but make a long story short. There we go. So pretty much I got a defibrillator as a safety net to ensure that if anything were to happen to me, I'd be okay. And I did that, and just throughout the whole process, the coaches, you know, because Coach Drew he was a leading force for this, because he told me he wanted me to play for him, and I didn't get cleared at first. So he kept going to a doctor. I kept going to one doctor to the next doctor to make sure that I could get a yes, because Coach Drew just wouldn't take a no. He was that persistent. And David Chandler was huge too. I mean, just his ability to be there for me every single step of the way, just love up on me and really just keep me encouraged. And my parents, there's so many great people around the Baylor staff and the Baylor program, all the coaches. It's their ability to really just uplift my spirit when I was going through one of the hardest times of my life. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be here without them.
There's only one Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's Ram from Allen Samuels. Now, kick off the new year with remarkable savings on new Rams during the Allen Samuels Start Something New sales event. This special New Year's event is underway right now, and you can save thousands on new Rams. Ram, for your family, farm, or business, at Waco's most trusted dealer, Allen Samuels. Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Your friend in the car business.
Whether on the field or cheering from home, Du Bois Furniture is proud to support the Baylor Bears. If your bear cave needs updating, Du Bois Furniture is here to help. With over 59 years of our family serving yours, let our experienced sales team help you find exactly what you want. We specialize in custom upholstery, stunning dining rooms, elegant bedrooms, gorgeous leather, and top quality mattresses. Come see us in Waco and Temple, or visit us online at DuBoisFurniture.com. Du Bois Furniture, where beautiful homes happen.
Now, back to the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
You weren't shy to talk about, your dream of being in the NBA, and then talking about how that dream kind of had to switch a little bit once you got the news of your heart condition. Would you say that you're pretty pleased with what you're doing with right now? This is a pretty good gig. You got youngest college basketball analyst ever hired by ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing. I mean, you always have, that hope, that dream that you could play in the NBA. And when I first got the news, it was hard. Like it was heartbreaking that I had no chance. So that really broke my heart. And I had to just get to a place to realize who I really was, and realize that I'm bigger than just a basketball player. I'm more than just an athlete. There's more to me. And I feel like so many guys get in my shoes, get in my situation to where the ball stops bouncing, or whatever you do, whatever sport you play, and they just get lost. They don't really know. So I think there's like 2 ways you can respond. You can either make the most out of it, or you can sulk. and continue to let life pass you by. And I feel like I made the most out of it. I took the connections that I built, and God was able to bless me with this opportunity. You're right, it's a great gig. I mean, I love it, but it was a blessing. And honestly, I don't even know how I got here.
A lot of guys in your position, they, whenever they finish playing, they think, all right, I'm going to step right in and I'm going to go to work for ESPN, the next day. But you put the work in. I mean, you prepared to be in a good position to get the job that you have now.
Yeah, J-Mo, I mean, you probably know better than anybody. When I first called David Steisler, he told me to put together a reel, and I didn't have one. So I had to call J-Mo, I had to call Coach Drew, Justin, and we had to put together like a makeshift reel. J-Mo asked me a question, like a pregame question, and we were just talking on camera. And then after that, I guess they liked it. So then they told me to come down for an audition. I've never called a game before. So J-Mo and I just sat there and practiced. I mean, we practiced about 3 or 4 times, just calling mock games. I think that was like huge for me. Just somebody like J-Mo, who's like the voice of the Bears, take the time out their day to just help me and really like help me live out my dream, help me fulfill my dream. And credit to you, J-Mo. J-Mo, Coach Drew, DK, y'all are the first people to ever believe in me and believe I could do this and get here. So y'all are a huge part of this, and that's why I said anything for J-Mo. I mean, it's like certain people in your life that like if they hit you up and like they ever need something, like you'll always like be able to answer and you got their back for sure. J-Mo's one of those people. I mean, J-Mo, DC, DK, Coach Drew, right? Those people, they're always good with me for sure.
I love that. I've also heard, well, we're very lucky that you answered the call for J-Mo so we can have you on the podcast. But I also heard that when you were practicing calling those games, that you also requested to get some people behind the scenes from Baylor Vision to talk in your ear, to purposely, distract you and to practice that. What's the trend? That's a lot of things that people don't think about whenever you guys are calling a game, is that there are people talking in your ear, giving you notes and feedback and things of that nature from the production crew. So how has that development gone? We talked about the growth of you as an athlete. How about as an analyst? How do you feel it's going now?
It's going great right now. At first, I'm not even gonna lie to you. The first time I ever did that and ever heard that, I stopped.
It's weird.
It's super weird. I stopped. And I was like, wait, hold on. What you say? And I was like, wait, I can't do that.
That's right.
But over time, it's just like anything. Like the more you practice it, the more you do it, you get better at it. Like now I'm a pro at it. Now I'm like on camera or I'm on air and they're at 8, 9. And now I'm starting to get like super creative with it and just like be able to put my own flavor or own spin on it. And I'm getting to like the point where I'm really starting to becoming like a pro. When I get to 1, I've said everything I need to say, and boom, I'm out. Even when I was in the studio last year, when you're in studio and you're like on behind the desk, they give you a certain amount of time to talk before they get to the next point, before they transition to the next point. So I was with John Crispin, and if you know anything about John Crispin, he likes to talk. And he gave me the rookie treatment because it was my first time. So he would take all the questions and throw it to me. So as soon as he threw it to me, the producer was like 5, 4. I was like, oh my goodness. So then I had to talk to Kevin Connors and was like, hey, ask me if you want to ask me a question, you want to get my feedback, ask me directly.
Yeah.
Then
King. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because John talks too much. And I told him to his face, John talks way too much. So they started doing that and it was easier. But I'm really starting to get better. I mean, even to the point to where they gave me an NIT game. There's only 4 analysts doing the NIT, and this Spatola, Fran, and Corey Alexander, and myself. I only have 1 of them, but like just to be in the same category, to be in the same tournament as those 3 guys, it's honestly an honor. So I'm super excited about that.
Well, we're proud of you. You know that. And it's been fun to see your development. And, just to see you when you're on the air doing games is great, or in the studio doing games. So we're really proud of you. And you didn't, one thing I'd say to people is you got a great voice. And I'm sure people have told you all along, oh, man, you got a voice. You got to be in broadcasting. But you didn't just rely on your great voice. You did the work to be prepared to do the game. So kudos to you on your work ethic and doing the work to get to where you are.
Thank you. I mean, even now, it's still a lot of work that I'm doing. I'm constantly sending emails, trying to pitch myself to do different things. I mean, as a result, I was able to get like 4 or 5 extra TV shows this year. I have one on Friday I'm doing. It's like a Bubble Bonanza show. Basically, we're just going to watch college games or the tournament games and react live. I've been able to give myself a lot of opportunities. I'm trying to get myself on SportsCenter right now. I did a piece with Baylor, like a game day piece. It was supposed to air last Saturday, but Baylor won.
That's right.
I was so excited for that, but Baylor lost, so they were like, "There's no point of us showing this."
Yeah.
So hopefully it can show on SportsCenter. I've been in contact with the SportsCenter people, so hopefully it can show on SportsCenter this week before they play. But I've just been able to just put in the work, like you said, just grind and constantly push myself and try to get myself on different platforms.
Well, fingers crossed we get to see that.
Yeah.
And, just going back to what you said previously, you talked about, kind of adding your own flair to things now. In preparation of this, just going through your Twitter, I noticed your bio, no tie. And you got some your own flair there, never rocking a tie, always in style. I just want to, real quick before we move on, what kind of went into that decision and how have you kind of owned that as your brand?
So, I mean, just me being me, like I've always been in the style, been in the fashion. When they hired me, I told them like, hey, I'm wearing a tie on this interview, but after this, if you hire me, you'll probably never see one. I'm just not a big suit and tie guy. And they were like, okay, I mean, that's you. Like, you just be yourself. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I've taken a little heat about some of my outfits. Like even when I did the Baylor game, I pulled up in like a flannel. And everybody was like, whoa. And I was like, yeah, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it out. I've taken a little heat from some of my colleagues about it. But I've also gotten a lot of compliments. I mean, the other day, Dallin Cuff was on air and he was rocking something similar with no tie. And in the studio, they said something to him like, hey, I see you trying to be super casual. And then the guy, Dallin was like, yeah, if I got to compete with King McClure to be the best. And I was like, all right, cool. Like a lot of people, some people like it, some people don't. But I just think it's one of those things to where, it's a sporting event. It's a game. Like who said you have to wear a suit and tie? Like, yeah, it's like the norm, but who said you can't be different? And I think that's just something I've embraced. I mean, my age is different. So everything that comes with my age, I feel like that's just one of those things.
Visiting with King McClure on this week's Sick 'em podcast. We talked to King about this year's Baylor team headed into the NCAA tournament. We'll have that when we come back. Stay with us. You're tuned in to the Sick 'em podcast.
It's a calling that's kept us free. It's a place to belong. What's the calling? It's doing a job that makes a difference. Serving your community and your country. It's part-time service where the impact is full-time. What's your calling? Air Force Reserve. AFReserve.com.
If you need a trailer, Flat Rock Trailers has got you covered. From light-duty single-axle utility trailers to the Big Tex tandem duals. We also carry a full line of enclosed cargo trailers. Need a motorcycle trailer? We've got them. Need a dump trailer? We've got the largest selection in the state. Oil field trailers? We carry a full line of Big Tex trailers to handle all your needs. Trailer repairs? We repair all makes and models. We'll even rent you a trailer if you need to use one for a day. Flat Rock Trailers, your #1 source for all your trailer needs. Find us at flatrocktrailers.com.
TNG can, and here's why.
To say my wife and I have a lot to clean is an understatement. So we go to TNG Chemical, where the pros know what cleaning solutions to use and give us detailed instructions on exactly how to use them. We never got that kind of advice from any other stores. And the prices at TNG are great. From general household cleaners to odor control solutions for our pets. We go to TNG Chemical and Supply. That's why.
TNG Chemical and Supply. That's why.
You're listening to the Sick 'em Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Here again are Brooke Bednarz and John Morris.
Back with us on this week's Sick 'em Podcast, a March Madness version of the Sick 'em Podcast with King McClure, former Baylor standout. Baylor basketball this year, a number 1 seed for the first time in school history. They are headed into the tournament in Indianapolis, opening round game on Friday against 16th seed Hartford. And King, be interested in your thoughts. You've seen Baylor. I mean, you're very close to the program still, and you've seen this year's Baylor team. What is it about this team that sort of sets them apart from, I mean, you were a part of some really good teams. There have been really good teams in the past. What is it about this one?
I think this team, they just enjoy each other. They enjoy playing together. Like you can tell, like the whole joy mantra that the team uses on every picture, every social media post. I feel like it's real. Like it's not just something for people's sake. It's not just cap in a sense. It's real. They really mean it. I mean, they love each other, and you can tell when like Jared Butler is arguably the best player. When somebody else scores or somebody else makes a crazy play, he's more excited than when he makes a crazy play. He celebrates more for his teammates than he does himself. I think that and the way they defend are 2 biggest things. Because they defend at an elite level, 1 through 5. Honestly, they can switch everything, and they really get after you. Davion, Mark Vital, they make it really hard for the opposing team's offense. I think those 2 things are the reason why you're seeing them having so much success this year.
The men's program only dropped 2 games. One of those obviously was to Kansas at Kansas, like 4 days, I think, John, after they came back from their 3-week COVID pause. And then in the Big 12 tournament to OSU. And there's a quote here that we have from Jared Butler, as you were just mentioning. He's the first team All-American Big 12 Player of the Year by the media. And he said he just needed to go back to the basic rules on defense, needed to go back to those basics. He thinks the opportunity to not play Big 12 teams right out the gate in the tournament will allow them to kind of really attack it on the defensive side. And that's something you just mentioned. How important is it to kind of go back to those basics as they enter this tournament?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, I think those 2 losses basically get you prepared for March. So I kind of like those 2 losses. I mean, I wish they probably had like 1 or 2 more, honestly, just so you can really understand like how it feels to lose. Because when you understand how it feels to lose, you don't want to have that feeling ever happen again. So it makes you play that much harder. Because sometimes when you get accustomed to winning, you kind of get content. And I mean, we kind of saw it, but not really. Last year we saw it a lot. We saw it towards the end of the stretch before COVID. We saw this team get a little content. But this year, I think it's a little different. Just the whole mentality, the way they approach everything. So I mean, I like those 2 losses, and I think it's huge for them to get back to the basics because the Baylor defense, as you know, switched up so much from when I was there, from us playing at 11 to the man-to-man now. And it's always good to get back to the fundamentals so you can hone in on the craft because when tournament time comes, you can't afford any mistakes. You have any mistakes, you're going to go home and the season's going to be over with. So I think that's huge for them to go back and do that.
You always hear that in the postseason, it's guard play that really determines how good a team is, how far they go into the tournament. I would put our guards up against any team in the country, which to me bodes really well for the Bears in the big dance.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. The only thing that concerns me is the interior. I mean, yeah, the guard play is what matters, but sometimes interior can control the game in a sense. In that second round matchup, if they play North Carolina, I think that's what can make it interesting because there's no doubt in my mind that our guards are way better than theirs. And our guards are going to destroy their guards. But they have 4 high-level bigs, probably 2 who will play in the NBA, maybe 3. That might pose a challenge because as we saw in the Iowa State game, without JTT, was just flowing Mark. And moving Mark to the 5 can kind of sort of, he's only 6'4", he's only my height. So he can only do so much down low. I mean, he's tough. He fights, he tries, but he can only do so much. So if Flo Thamba gets in foul trouble, JT gets in foul trouble, then we're stuck with Mark down there. It could pose a problem. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup. I think after that matchup, though, I think they'll be good to go to the Final Four.
There's been a lot of talk about Baylor and Gonzaga this year. It was a highly anticipated game that got postponed because of COVID, and now we're in the tournament. 2 number 1 seeds. Everyone's been talking about it. And when we think about your last go around, that was your very last game, was in Salt Lake City. We were both there. I had a different job. I was working TV. But to be in that game, there's still some of the same players on both teams. So to kind of reflect back on your game against Gonzaga, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, my game against Gonzaga, it was my last game ever. I think I went out with a bang. I think I was probably like a top 10 game in my career, honestly. I did everything I could. I left it all on the floor. Brandon Clark for Gonzaga, who now plays for the Grizzlies, he just absolutely destroyed us. We had no answer for him. He had like 36 and 18. Honestly, we're probably the reason why he got drafted in the first round.
May have looked good.
Because that performance was a little different. But I mean, I went out with a bang. I was talking to Corey Kispert, who's on Gonzaga right now. I was talking to him, I think yesterday, and we were talking about it and just reminiscing on it. And he was like, "Yeah, y'all had no answer for BC." We didn't. But I do think if they didn't have Brandon Clark, we would have beat them, because Rui Hachimura, who we were really concerned about, did absolutely nothing. He was not that good against us. So I think if they didn't have Brandon Clark, we would have won, and we probably would have been that team to upset a lot of people and make a little run.
How proud are you of this Baylor team? As a Baylor alum, former basketball letterman, to see, Baylor's name mentioned all year, Gonzaga, Baylor, Gonzaga, right at the top, and to have so much respect for the program this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited just knowing what I went through to get there, and knowing what guys before me like Tweety Carter, knowing what our program was when Coach Drew took over, just with everything that happened. I mean, it's crazy to see you literally start from the ground and build it all the way up. So Coach Drew is an amazing coach. To see the change that he's been able to make, I talked about it a little bit at that luncheon, that panel I was on. I mean, his ability to adapt to the new style of basketball, his ability to change. He ran 11 for 10 plus years. Then you realize you have a team that's not suited for 11, and your team likes to play man to man more than zone and hate zone. So your ability to adapt and change your whole style of defense, your whole style of offense, instead of throwing it down low, you're looking for your guards to make majority of the plays. I mean, kudos to him, because a lot of coaches can't do that. A lot of coaches are stuck in their ways. But I'm super proud just being an alumni. And honestly, I mean, I kind of feel part of it, because like Jared Butler, Matthew Meyer, I feel like those are my sons, because my senior year, I mean, they were my young guys, and they looked up to me for everything. And I took them under my wing and showed them. It was just like a different type of leadership, like a big brother, little brother thing. And like, we're still super close to this day. We still talk often. They still ask me questions. But it's just, I'm just proud. And then Davion and Maceo, seeing what their progress, Flo too. Forgot about Flo. But Maceo and Davion, they were redshirted, so they were on the scout team, and they definitely made us better just by pushing us in practice every day. So I'm super proud, because I feel like I'm part of it, and I feel like I really contributed and helped, especially with like Jared Butler, Matt, Flo, all those guys.
Well, and just being a part of the foundation, it was really neat to see all of the social media posts that came in when they finally clinched the Big 12 championship for the regular season. I even saw your tweet. I know I'm supposed to be unbiased, but sick 'em Bears. Super excited to see all of the people, all the players from all the past years, really just pouring out their celebrations on social media, through text. We visited with Jared Butler a few podcasts ago, and he said his phone was blowing up, just talking with all of those former players. So for you to have seen, to have been a part of laying that foundation, and then to see that the program and Coach Drew to have the success that they've already had this year, still more to come, hopefully, but so far this year, and to be able to celebrate that, what does it mean to you to know that you were a part of that?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I think that means personally that, hey, that's a tough question. I had an answer, then I forgot my answer. No, for me, it means a lot, because like you said, like I kind of in a sense laid the foundation. And for guys to still, like for Coach Drew to text me after they win a championship and tell me, hey, you're the reason behind this. I mean, granted, he might have texted everybody that, but it kind of felt special. Like just the fact that you just won a Big 12 championship and you're still reaching out to your former players. He literally cut me a piece of the net and like wrote me a letter and gave it to me. And like for that right there, I mean, like I said, Coach Drew, I love Coach Drew to death. And that was huge for me because of everything that I endured when I was here with my heart surgery to trying to help this program and really try to just give my all to the program. I mean, I was probably one of the best moments of my life right there. I wish I could have celebrated, but I had a game that I had to do. So I couldn't be there. But, I mean, it was probably one of the biggest moments of my life just because I know how hard it was. And it's got a real sense of family. And whenever your family succeeds, I mean, you feel like you succeed too. So I think that right there was huge for me.
Well, everybody like you know, former players here, anybody that's been around Coach Drew, you know, just is pulling for him and just love the success, you know, for him and the staff, for everybody. You know, you just pull for Coach Drew and want him to be successful because he does have such a, you know, he has a giving attitude, and he includes you in the celebration, sending you part of the net.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one word that you associate Coach Drew with is genuine. I mean, I think that's just how he is. I mean, he's not a fake, not a phony. A lot of people say he's a fake. They say he's soft. They say he's a phony. He's none of that. I mean, he is who he is, and he embraces who he is. Like, he embraces that he's different. Just him being so peppy and just like super happy, cheerful all the time. I mean, that's just who he is. When I first was being recruited by him, I thought the same thing. I was like, there's no way this guy is like this 24/7. But he's like that 24/7. And I mean, it's just a joy to be around because honestly, you walk in, you might be having a bad day, then you see Coach Drew smiling and like, hey, and you just like, oh, okay, cool. It might make you smile, might say something super corny, and then you start laughing at it because it's kind of funny. But I think that right there, I mean, you got to root for that guy. Anybody who's really genuine and actually cares and loves his players, I mean, you got to root for that guy.
Well, and we'll call it a coaching family tree. I mean, whether you look just at the Drews, who, you know, side note, your thoughts on this, you know, his parents, they made it easy on him this year with the bubble. They get to go to one spot because his brother, Bryce with Grand Canyon's also going to be in the tournament. And then, you know, some former Baylor assistants also making the tournament. So his family tree of coaching, whether it's, you know, by blood or, you know, former staff, they're having a pretty good year, and they get to go home to Indiana for him where it all started.
Man, shout out Coach Matt, Coach Mills, Bryce. I was sitting in a meeting with Bryce last year because he was with ESPN. He was with us. We talked a lot, but shout out to Bryce, Coach Drew, everybody. Like, it's crazy to see like this 1 year, like every single coach that has left, except Coach Driscoll, but every single coach that's left Baylor is in the tournament. And every single coach that Coach me was in the tournament. That's super cool to see. I mean, North Texas, like with those games were on. So North Texas was playing Western Kentucky. I was literally in a restaurant, like rooting for him, like, please win. Like I want him to win so bad. Same thing with Oral Roberts. When Oral Roberts played, I think it was North Dakota State in the championship game. I was watching that game and I was rooting like I was watching Baylor because those are my guys. They recruited me. I still talk to them to this day. So shout out to all of them, and I can't wait to see them play in the tournament. I really hope, and I honestly think that North Texas might beat, I forgot who they're playing, but they play somebody, and I think that that's a winnable game for them, so they might upset them.
There you go. Some inside information.
Yeah, he called it first, right there.
All right, so ESPN has the women's tournament. We're going to talk women's basketball and Lady Bears after a short timeout. All right, so stay with us. You're tuned into the Sikkim podcast. King McClure, former Baylor standout basketball player, is our guest, and we'll be right back after this.
There's only one Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's Ram from Allen Samuels. Now, kick off the new year with remarkable savings on new Rams during the Allen Samuels Start Something New sales event. This special New Year's event is underway right now, and you can save thousands on new Rams. Ram, for your family, farm, or business, and Waco's most trusted dealer, Allen Samuels. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Your friend in the car business.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
This is the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com.
You're listening to the Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics, and we are visiting with the one and only King McClure, the youngest college basketball analyst ever to be hired by ESPN. And we are lucky that he made time out of his very busy schedule to visit with us. We've talked a lot about you and your time here at Baylor, your time with ESPN, and the very successful boys program that we have going on here. They are up in Indianapolis, but the women are also down at number 2 seed overall down in San Antonio for their own bubble for the NCAA tournament. What are your thoughts on that? Their number 2 seed, to have the school you came from go 1 and 2 into their tournaments this year, that is a feat of its own.
I mean, first and foremost, I feel like the women are always the number 1 seed. So I think that's kind of shocking, like for us to be number 1 and to be number 2. Kind of backwards almost in a sense, like we're supposed to be behind them. But no, shout out to the girls team. Coach Monkey does an amazing job with those girls. And even this year, I feel like she didn't really have, like she had an Alyssa Smith, but she didn't really have like a Kalani Brown or a Lauren Cox, like a super dominant force down low that just made the game look super easy. So she did what she had to do with the team that she had, was able to win a championship. Moon Erson had a crazy year this year. And my girl, Didi. Shout out to Didi. That's the homie right there. So shout out to those girls. I mean, I'm really a proud alumni right now. Baylor, honestly, when I look at their sports in general, like Baylor sports is doing the thing right now. So Baylor's hot. I love it.
A lot to be proud of there. Men's and women's basketball both won the Big 12 Conference regular season crown. It's only the 3rd time that's happened in Big 12 history. It's only the 2nd time that it's been done with teams winning the outright championships in Big 12 history. That's a huge accomplishment, isn't it?
That's huge. I mean, it doesn't happen much. There's a reason why it didn't happen much, because it's hard to do. I mean, for both your programs to really be able to reach that level of success is not easy to do. So shout out to, honestly, maybe Mac Rhodes for getting these great coaches in here.
And keeping them.
All right, here's the question. ESPN has a lot of women's basketball games. Have they tapped you on your shoulder and said, hey, we need you to maybe work some women's basketball games in the tournament?
You know, not yet, but that's a great point, because look, I did the SWAC Women's Championship.
Yeah.
And it's been one of the most fun games I've ever done.
Nice.
So I didn't even think about that. But now that you say that, I honestly, I told you, I grind, I work. I'm about to send emails.
There you go.
I was about to say, you're pitching yourself, so just go ahead and add those to the list.
Yeah.
I'm really about to do that, because I would love to hop on a women's tournament game for sure.
Yeah. And you're a Baylor alum, so that's going to be in your favor, as you look at the women's tournament. So let us know how that comes out, and we'll watch for you on the air.
Hopefully I get it.
Well, that's going to be fun. The bubble situation this year for the men and for the women, it's been, so hard to go through. For you broadcasting, I know you've done some remote games, you've been to some in person, but how has that been for you to work through?
At first, it was a struggle. It was a challenge. I mean, just not being at the venue, not being able to hear like those little small inside things you normally can hear, not being able to talk to the referees for them to even explain a call to you. It was a challenge because I'm sitting right here in this chair, looking at a monitor, watching the game pretty much like everybody else watching the game. I just have a microphone connected to me so I can talk about it. It was kind of hard at first. Now I've gotten kind of used to it. I'm kind of good at it now. I kind of like it. I mean, I can wear shorts and literally like a jacket and a turtleneck, but then I rock shorts underneath.
That's what we call that.
Yeah, and I got house shoes on, and like I feel like I'm just comfortable. Like it's only chest up, so that part is kind of cool. The pregame meal is kind of cool too. My mama can just go down there and cook for me. So I think that right there is super, super cool. But other than that, I really miss. I really do miss being at the facilities, interacting with people, interacting with fans, players. So hopefully we can get back to normal next year and we can do it.
Well, from your perspective, the few games you were able to do, in person, I know when you come here at the very top of the arena, very far away from the floor, very far away from fans, and when we talked about y'all's March Madness run a couple of years ago, super packed arenas for those games. And so exactly how it feels to, play in front of large crowds, to be the announcer now and to witness how very few fans were actually allowed to be in these arenas. Speaking from your perspective as a former player, how much of a change would that be for the players this year that they've had to adjust to that?
Yeah, I think that's a major change. And I think you see more of a change in schools, not necessarily the top schools, but I think more so like Iowa State, for instance. If Iowa State was allowed to have fans, a full crowd, I don't think they'd be 0-18 in conference. I think they probably would have pulled off at least 3 to 4 wins. I mean, people understand the crowd really does play effect into, how an outcome of a game is. Because if you're making a run and you're down by, let's say, like 10, 15, you're making a run, that crowd is behind you, you automatically get an extra sense of energy, like out of nowhere. You might be super tired, but it just comes out of nowhere and you're good to go for another 30 minutes. So I think that the crowd plays a huge role. I mean, in not really bigger, but better teams like Baylor, I don't think that really plays a difference, to be honest. Maybe on the road, it might make it a little harder just because they're number one in the country and everybody wants to see them lose. So on the road, probably it'd make it harder. But I think it makes a huge difference.
Well, like we said at the start, it's an exciting time of year, and the men's tournament, women's tournament, both underway, and Baylor right in the middle of it. That's a lot of fun. King, we appreciate your time and wish you continued success. The men again open on Friday in Indianapolis against Hartford at 2:30 Central Time. The women open against Jackson State Sunday at 3 p.m. in San Antonio, and that game will be in the Alamo Dome on Sunday. And then hopefully we're playing, for the next 3 weeks. We got men's and women's basketball going on. King, we appreciate your time and proud for you and proud of you and what you're doing. And thanks for visiting with us.
Thank you for having me, for sure.
That's been a treat. That's been the Sick'em Podcast for King McClure, the voice of the Bears, John Morris. I'm Brooke Bednarz, and be sure to tune in to next week for more of the Sick'em Podcast.
You've been listening to the Sick'em Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at AlanSamuelsDCJ.com. The Sick'em Podcast has been a production of Baylor Athletics.